Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. That must have been my cousin up there, huh?
Yeah. Oh, oh yeah. Okay.
I love the different pictures because I'm not always sure which one you're going to have. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah. I wanted to use the one with the hat on.
oh,
I said I forgot to ask you.
oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Any ones that you use is fine with me. I'm one of these
Okay.
people. I'm good anyway. And so I'm excited. Excited today because, as you know, we've been having a very interesting conversation throughout our city. So first and foremost, I want to welcome everybody to GA for Justice every Thursday at 12 noon. I'm the host, Georgia F. Allen. And today's topic, of course, is good trouble, power of 10. Anybody know anything about good trouble? You know, our Congressman John Lewis used to always use that. If you're going to get in trouble, you better get in some good trouble. So I'm probably going to get in a whole lot of trouble today because there's been a lot going on here in
Yeah.
Hampton Roads in the city of Virginia Beach. And I want to introduce myself today as a community activist through and through. If you don't know that, now you do. Okay. And as always, we want to welcome you to our weekly conversation for information, our weekly conversation for correction, as well as our weekly conversation for transformation. We are always thankful and very, very grateful to have Henderson Vaughn, who has been willing to open up his media platform so that we can bring different information to the community. We find a lot of times that the information that is told about us, that's said about us, is very, very one sided. So we want to make sure that there are other conversations that's going on out there that can be helpful to our community. Um, One of the quotes that I want to use this today as we get into the conversation is one that the former Attorney General used. He said, "We are a nation of cowards." And the reason why I think that is so powerful because right now the city of Virginia Beach is trying to decide what election system that they're going to put in place permanently.
Right.
Okay. We have had a ruling by a judge that said that the election system that city of Virginia Beach has is illegal. It does not follow the Voting Rights Act. Okay. As a matter of fact, it was put in place 2 years after the Voting Rights Act was put on the books. So it was intentional. It was very intentional. And so we have been having what they call community input sessions. From March 25th of this year to April the 3rd, every citizen who wanted to speak had an opportunity to speak at public hearings. There were several ways that they could give their input. One, they could come in person and speak. Two, they could go virtually online and speak or listen. Three, they could email and let people know what their position was with regards to the 10-1 district system. Or they could just pick up the phone and call. They could call their city council member, or they could contact the contractor, the consultants that the city of Virginia Beach use to have these open conversations. Now, I attended many of the sessions so that I could see firsthand the dynamics of the persons interested in how we as a city will hold our future elections for local government. That is our city council election as well as our school board election. My disappointment came when I only identified one minister who attended several of the public sessions um, that we had. Now, that is not to say that pastors and other ministers did not send in an email, that they did not make a phone call, or that they did not attend virtually. But I only saw one who attended in person. And so I pondered Dr. King's message to the ministers, why we can't wait. If you know anything about that message, that was when he wrote the letter from the Birmingham jail, because the ministers were the ones that was like, shh, don't say nothing about that. Oh, you're going to upset people. You're going to do this and that and the other. And it was, and when I went through this process, because I've been involved in this process for over 2 years, I think it's since 19. It feels like it's been the 1900s that I've been in this process, but I've been in this process since around 2018, 2019, between the lawsuit and trying to get the city to change their behavior, because this is about a behavioral change. Elections is about behaviors, okay? If I can have an election process that disenfranchises people, that is an intentional behavior that a city government, a state government, or a federal government entity is enacting to ensure that persons don't have the ability to elect persons of their choice. So when I pondered this message with Dr. King of why we can't wait in Virginia Beach, we can't afford to wait any longer to turn things around for the good. And so in the past, our ministers, our pastors, our evangelists, our apostles were the ones in the forefront of the clarion call on behalf of our community. And so I was trying to figure out, what is it about today's time that may have changed that dynamic from our ministers being in the forefront than from our regular citizens, just working class Americans that are now in the forefront. And so today, we do not see that as a priority. And we have to ask ourselves, is it that we trust the government 50C3 more than we trust the Holy Trinity? And I had to ask myself, do we trust the people in government more than we trust the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit? And what seems to have happened, it appears that we as a people have forgotten the power of numbers. We have been lulled into believing that our power is in being submissive to the power brokers of this earth versus being elevated by the power and the powerful of the universe. So we got sidetracked. We got sidetracked to making ourselves submissive to power brokers of earth versus elevated by the power and the powerful of the universe. So I just want to throw that out as my opening comment as we get into getting into good trouble, which I probably already have. There are probably persons who are in the faith-based community are listening and they're like, well, Georgia, you're tough on us. But Dr. King, at his time in his life, had to be tough on us, okay? And so what I'm seeing is that things have not changed quite as much as we thought they had. They have not changed as much as we thought they had. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the city process. And then I'm going to talk to you about we as a people and our process. So the city had a process when they brought us together to talk about this election system, because they claimed they wanted to hear from the public and let the public tell us how they feel. Let the public tell them how we feel. Okay. And so I'm going to focus on getting in good trouble and the power of 10. And the reason why I'm using the power of 10 is because we have 10 separate election districts that allow we, the people, to identify the best choice for the people who represent us in our district, in our community, our neighborhood, representing our businesses that are in that district, representing our stores, our restaurants, our people, our schools, all of those things in our district. Having elected officials who represent one district allows us to have someone who can narrowly focus on that. Now, that does not mean that they don't get to focus on all the other issues within the community and within our city, because in every single solitary form of government, our Senate, our state Senate, we only vote in one state Senate district. We don't vote in all of them throughout the whole Commonwealth of Virginia. We vote in one. We don't vote in every single delegate district throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. We only vote in one state delegate district. So if that's the way it works on the state level, shouldn't it also work on the local level? So when you hear people say, well, I just want to vote for everybody, it doesn't make sense to vote for everybody. And when you hear people say, well, my kids go to 3 different schools in 3 different districts, but you still have your school board district representative in the district where you live, and their responsibility is to work with you and support you because they are your district representative. Now, if that means they need to talk to some of those other school board members, that is what they're supposed to do. And nothing has changed, because even when there was district at large running for office, they were still responsible to meet with their other representatives throughout the whole entire city. So don't get hoodwinked because someone comes up to you and says, well, we just don't have enough people to vote for. And if I just vote for one person, then that's the only person I can talk to. No, it's not, because everybody on city council vote on all issues. So therefore, you can speak to any one of those city council members that you want to talk to, that you're comfortable talking with, regardless of whether or not they are your district representative. Now, primarily, you want to talk to your district representative. You want to work with your district representative. You want to get your people in your community to speak with them, to meet with them, and make them aware of concerns that you may have that may be very different from someone who lives on the ocean front, or someone who lives in a rural area where there's a lot of farms and things of that nature. So each district has its own situations, own concerns, etc. And so let's not get hoodwinked when people are saying, well, I want to be able to vote on more than one person. Well, guess what? You can. You get to vote on the person in your district, you get to vote on the person in your school board, and you get to vote on the person that's the mayor. So you get to vote on more than one person, okay? So let's make it clear. So with that being said, because we are talking about electing people to office, and we are talking about whether or not we're going to keep the 10-1 district system, or whether or not we're going to change to something else that meets within the guidelines of the Voting Rights Act. So with the consultant, they came in and they had 12 sessions, 10 of which were in each individual district, and 2 were done virtually. But the nice part about this process is, even if you couldn't go to a meeting in person, you still could access that meeting online virtually. So this is how it began. City Council requests community engagement. After they requested the community engagement, they voted on it and they put it in play. They voted and they approved that they would have community engagement. Next, the City Council contracted with UVA, or the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Input. Now, keep in mind, they had never done this before. This was the first time that this contractor had done this. The community engagement began from March the 25th, 2023 through April the 3rd, 2023. And that was when you were allowed to come in the different districts and speak about whether or not you felt that the 10-1 was working or that it did not work. And you could speak in favor of it, you could speak against it, or you could speak for something else that you thought would work better. Around 4/7, which is tomorrow. That'll be the next part of the city's process. And I'm giving this to you because you'll be able to look at this again and again so that you know how the process works. On 4/7, surveys will be mailed out to a random selection of residents. Now, you may not be in that selection, Henderson, and I may not be in that random selection. That
That's what
they
you're
may
talking.
not send it to us.
Yeah, you know it.
Okay. So then the mail survey data collection will close on May the 26th, 2023. That will be the final date for you to respond. Also, the online surveys will go out on March the 26th. No, I'm sorry. The online surveys will also go out at the same time, or be open up, I should say it's open up around the same time that the mailed surveys go out. So that means that even if they don't mail you a survey, I would say wait a week, see if you get one, see if you're on the special list to receive a mailed survey. Okay. If you do not receive a mail survey, you can go online and still do a survey, and you also have until May the 26th to complete your survey. How you feel about this system? Now, I have not seen the survey, so I will probably talk about this again, because once the survey goes online and we can take a look at it, we can see how they formulate the questions. And you say, well, Georgia, why is that so important? Because when you have all of these lawyers in the city that you can go to, they can pick and choose and manipulate the wording and write it in a manner where it can be very confusing. I'm sure many of you have signed contracts before and you've gone through it, you underlined, you asked questions because you were like, I don't quite understand what this says or what it actually means. And so when you have attorneys who work for the city, they want to formulate the questions in a manner that sways the community to vote in favor of what the city is trying to get across versus what they have been engaged in and what they feel is in their best interest. So you want to be very careful when you're looking at these surveys that's going to be coming out. Again, the surveys will be both online and a small random group of individuals in the city will get the written survey. Then after the survey closes, there will be a presentation. During this period of time, there will be a presentation to the city of what the findings were by the consultant. So that means the findings of the public speaking, the findings of the virtuals, the findings of all of this that has taken place, but they too have to review the surveys. So that's also going to be determined later as to when the findings of both the in-person, the online, the surveys are going to be pulled together and presented back to the city. Once that is done, the city council will have options. Now, the council is saying that's when they're going to make a decision on the referendum that they plan to put on the November ballot. Well, we are the people. We are the constituents. We are the ones who help to decide what will happen. We can say to the city, we don't need a referendum. Everything that we have seen shows that the majority of the people are saying that they prefer the 10-1 election system. So if they prefer the 10-1 election system, we don't need to draw this out with another vote on the ballot. What we need you to do is we need you to adopt Adopt the system that the majority of the people have said that they're pleased with. We need you to get the people that we pay as liaisons to our General Assembly who work for the city of Virginia Beach. And we need that legislative liaison to go to Richmond and tell Richmond that we need the delegates to support the 10-1 system. That's adopting it, that's changing the city's charter, and then putting it into law so that we now have our voting system in place. So I wanted to give you guys that background, the process, community engagement, public input. The community engagement, of course, has ended. There will be a survey that will come out. That survey will be mailed out to a small group of residents throughout the city. And then there will be an online survey as well that you can go online and put your thoughts and how you would like to see things in the city of Virginia Beach. Once all of this data has been collected, the UVA team, the Weldon Cooperson Center for Public Input, will present the findings back to the city of Virginia Beach. And when they present those findings, I want to encourage you as a citizen of Virginia Beach to get actively involved and stay involved, okay? Because if you do not, then before you know it, something else would have been swept under the carpet. And next thing you know, they will have said to us, well, we made this decision because of this, and that. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, for my city, because this is where I live. I live in Virginia Beach. But the other reason why I'm having this conversation is there are people who listen to this show who may be located somewhere else. And this information may prove to be helpful to you if you find yourself in a similar situation. And earlier I said, I talked about Dr. King. And so what I did is I put together a few of his quotes because I think this works so well with what we are trying to accomplish here in Virginia Beach and perhaps in some other cities. You know, we've seen a lot of states who state legislature have been changing voting and how voting is conducted all around the country. I think we're up to like 30 some states who have changed the way voting is done in their state. And so if we want to change outcomes, it's always helpful for us to talk to each other and share with each other. If I have been able to do some things that maybe didn't happen in another city. I mean, we've had people come and say, wow, you guys were able to sue the city of Virginia Beach, the largest city in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the judge ruled in your favor. We're having some similar issues in our city. What is it that you did? What did you do? How were you able to do it? And what was the process that you used in order to get to this place? And keep in mind, every city is not the same, but there may be nuggets or tools and things that we've done that you just need to tweak for your city, for your the way your legislature work in your particular city. Okay, so was that helpful, Henderson?
Yes, of course. Dang.
Okay.
They ain't playing no game in VA. That's why you got to get it. That's why, as Al Pacino's, Al Pacino, the Godfather said,
Right.
every time I get out, they drag me back in. That's why you vice president now.
and that's what we got to do. We just have to stay the course. We got to stay the course. And so as I was looking at this, focus on good trouble and the power of 10, and I was listening and to some of the things that Dr. King had done when he was here. I mean, and the heavy lifting that he had to do. And so when I thought about the process for us, and I looked at what he said, and and believe me, the quotes are not going to be exactly the same, but it talks about what he was able to do. And what I want to say to us is, for years we have, and then he quotes, this is what he said: quietly endured, silently suffer, and patiently wait. That was a process. Believe it or not, we endured, we suffered, and we waited. Okay. That, in fact, was a process, because during that period of time, we were getting ourselves together to make some moves. We may not have, our people, our forefathers may not have realized that was what they were doing, but to have a process, you're going to have to go through some things. It's not going to be a snap of the finger. You're going to have to endure some things. You may have to suffer some things. And sometimes you might want to jump out front. And sometimes it's better for you to just quietly wait, prepare, and get ready. So the next thing I said is the preparation. And the preparation is knowing your enemy or your opposition. So as you're quietly enduring, as you're silently suffering, as you're patiently waiting, you're also learning who your opposition is. And so this is what Dr. King said. He said, the old guard in any society resents new methods. They don't want any preparation. They don't want you to do something different. He said, for old guards, wear the decorations and medals won by waging battle in their accepted manner, the way they accept something. Okay. So when we're preparing for our enemy, know your enemy. My preparation is about know who your enemy is, know who your opposition is, know who the old guard is, know what society and their methods are, because if we don't know their methods, we are not properly prepared. So that's why I said, let's make sure that we have the preparation in place. And I know you guys probably say, man, I listened to her, man, this woman she's different. And that's okay, because after being out here so long as an activist, I had to begin to think a little differently, because I used to think strictly, or used to act or react. And so over time, and this is what's so good about when you start to grow older, I won't say old, but as you start to grow older, you begin to look at things very, very differently than you did when you were much younger. And so you want to have a process. Okay. And that process, even though it says quietly endure, silently suffer, and patiently wait, that process is also keeping notes about what the opposition is doing. You're keeping notes, you're learning. Your process is a learning process. And so don't be disturbed by what Dr. King may have said, because you got your hands on your hips and you're like, well, I don't want to endure anything. I don't want to suffer anything. I don't want to have to wait for anything. Well, all of that is part of the process. It is part of the process to get to where you want to be. Preparation is part of the process. Knowing the old guard, knowing what they are doing, and knowing how they do what they do. Okay. That is so critical. You want to know how they do what they do. So once you are aware of how they're doing what they're doing, once you're aware of what they are doing, it allows you to be able to go on the offensive. You now preparing yourself to be able to go into battle, but you want to win the battle. See, if all I did was say, oh, well, I'm just going to join a lawsuit and everything, but I'm not concerned about whether I win or lose, you've already lost. Okay. But if you know the enemy, if you know your opposition, if you know their thinking, if you know the way they operate, that gives you an edge. Then the next thing is the participation. Now, this is going to be a quote straight from his Why We Can't Wait. As a matter of fact, all of these quotes are from Why We Can't Wait. And it's critical to listen to what Dr. King was saying to us years ago. And now let's implement some of these things. And so the participation, when I was reading through it, I mean, he had tons and tons of quotes. So believe me, I had to take my time and just cipher out specific quotes for this show today. And the participation, he said, is a social movement that only moves people is merely a revolt. Almost like it's a temporary situation. A movement that changes both people and institutions is a revolution. Let me say that one more time. This is Dr. King. This is not Georgia. This is Dr. King. A social movement that only moves people is merely a revolt. A movement that changes both people and institutions is a revolution. With a lawsuit to tell the city of Virginia Beach that you're operating outside of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, you're having a revolution, because what you're doing is you're changing that institution from what it was to what it can be and what it will be. That's a revolution. You're also changing the people from how they used to think about voting. Well, I don't know any of these candidates on here because there's just so much information. So when they are operating in that mindset of a list of 20 and 30 candidates on their ballot versus a few candidates, because they are now voting only in their district for candidates in their district, it makes a difference. You have more time to investigate the candidates. You have more time to do a check on what they believe versus what they claim to believe and what they actually believe, because now you're able to find out who they really are. The other thing about being a participant in this process, being a participant in changing the outcome of what our election system looks like, is now you know these people. You can call them up on the phone. You can meet with them in your district because your district is smaller. You can go to a local restaurant, or you can go have a cup of coffee with that person who's going to get on that city council and press the button yay or nay in your favor or against what it is that you care about the most. If what you care about the most is your roads, your sidewalks, the beautification, is there too much growth? Are there tons and tons of 18-wheel trucks in parking lots all throughout your community, and you don't know if they're transporting women or children or doing all kinds of illegal activities with these big trucks sitting in parking lots, and you don't know if your child went over there to that parking lot, that they wouldn't snatch your child up and throw them in the back of the truck, transport them to another state or whatever. If that's a concern, which is what one of the people who spoke at the microphone in the input session, they were concerned about their neighborhood going down because of what was now in their neighborhood. Well, guess what? They can actually talk directly to their council member. This is critical. So a social movement that only moves people is merely a revolt. A movement that changes both the people, and that was the people being able to go to that microphone, give their input, tell them what their concerns are, and institutions, that's our city government, is a revolution. We're gonna revolutionize how the city of Virginia Beach operates. That is a power move on the part of the people. The next thing is pressure. And I love this quote by Dr. King. Lightning makes no sound until it strikes. That's the pressure. We're going to have to strike some lightning up here in the city of Virginia Beach. We're going to have to apply some real pressure. You got some jewels for me, Henderson. I saw you light up with that one.
Yeah. But I didn't know if I didn't forget to ask you, because I had made a 3-minute video of the, the meeting that we had at the library. When the white lady came up there and said how long she was been in Virginia Beach.
Right.
And she was in favor. I didn't know if you wanted me to play that during your segment.
Can. I'm gonna do that lightning strike, and then I'm gonna let you. Well, actually, I'm gonna do the people next.
Okay.
And then I'll have you go ahead and play that, because it just I'm hoping it helps people to see how they can use some of these similar processes. Maybe they don't want to use them all. Maybe they want to use some. Maybe they want to apply the pressure. Maybe they want to participate. Maybe they want to prepare. Maybe they want to make sure that they have their process in place. And so the pressure was lightning makes no sound. Do you hear me, folks out there?
Yeah.
If you're not making any sounds, if you're not applying any pressure, then folks are going to continue to do what they're doing. And then we're going to talk about the people. And I love this. Unity has never meant uniformity. Okay. The people must be unified, but they should not be uniform. Okay. They should not all be walking in lockstep, whatever. They should be united by the issues they support. And then with that unity, they want to come together as a unit, apply the pressure, make sure they're participating, make sure they're making the phone calls, make sure they're engaged, make sure that they are educating throughout the community. Because see, all of that, the people, the pressure, the participation, the preparation, the process, all of that is critically important if we want to have a revolution. So with that being said, we're going to hear a little bit from some of the people in the community who were there at the meeting live and in person.
All right.
Yes, my name is Lauren Ferrell, and I probably have lived here the longest. I kind of suspect I've lived here for the most part since 1955. I live in the house that my dad built in his second career after retiring from the Navy, 31 years. He went into real estate and was a site salesman for my neighborhood. And when I graduated from ODU, I went into real estate as well, back in 77. That was, the city is all excited about 60 years being a city, but I've been here and lived here when it was Princess Anne County. So being in real estate, I've seen a lot of development and experienced a lot of change. I used to like the being able to vote for everyone. I was naive to think that my vote made a difference. My vote didn't make a difference, nor did most of your votes when you're voting for people across town. The people have followed local politics closely. I like to call it as Virginia Beach terms. Since 2000, I watch every city council meeting and workshop, as well as planning commission events, their meetings. And I know the players. I know who influences who. I've seen the money influence people, sadly to say. And this latest election, I again follow politics closely, local politics especially. And I was hearing, and candidates were being questioned on, do you support the 10-1 system? It was dicey to answer that question, and some would talk out of both sides of their mouths to get elected, and some there, even though it's nonpartisan, local politics are supposed to be nonpartisan, it has become more and more partisan, and so people are looking for support by parties. The thing that worries me, that the subject came up, well, 10-1, just like the gentleman that owns iFly, who is part of the business community here, it's a good place to start. Well, no, what happens when you get a majority, if you water it down with 3 hybrid at-large people, first off, the money is going to buy those candidates. They are going to be the people who will change to the majority vote of anything that matters for the city as a whole. Another little item, I live along the Shore Drive corridor. people along Shore Drive. So I talked to my neighbors along Shore Drive as well as the councilman in 8 and 6. I own a piece of property in 6, so I share the wealth now there. They can talk to one another and they can make a difference. I feel like honorable people would be all right.
Thank you. All right. So she's saying exactly what we've been saying, and that is when you're able to vote for the person of your choice and not citywide, you actually have a candidate that can work on your issues directly. And do they have to negotiate and compromise to get people to help them get things through? Absolutely. But that's what you have to do anyway. Even if you were in an all citywide system, there would always be things that perhaps this council member may want that they would have to negotiate with the other council members to get, regardless of citywide election or not. They still had to negotiate to get things passed that they cared about. And so to suggest that this is somehow different than what they were doing already, which is making sure that everybody's voices are heard. This actually is one person, one vote. Now, with this election system, we have to have an outcome. We produce the product, and that the product is the outcome. And Dr. King said, nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. That is what we did in the city of Virginia Beach. This was a group of people who refused to negotiate with regards to the election system. Even when the citizenry in 1994 had gone to the ballot, where there was a referendum on the ballot saying, do you want to just vote for the people in your district? And they overwhelmingly said yes. And the city was like, oh my God, I never thought they would do that. So let's see how we can fix this. They went back, they reworded the referendum. And what did the citizens do? Here again, if you are an attorney, you can make that message say anything you want to confuse the electorate, because we're not all legal scholars. We're average working class people. We're teachers, doctors. We are accountants. We work in the insurance industry. We work in real estate. We work in all of these various industries, but we're not all attorneys. And so you switch up the question. We're first line employees. So if you switch up the question, it can be very confusing. So when they did that, they ended up in 1996 voting against the district type voting. And so here we are 3 years away from 2006. So that is a long time that citizens who had voted in 1994 for district voting to be without district voting. So by having a direct action, by having public input, by calling up your council members, by sending them emails, by taking the survey, all of those things are nonviolent direct action to produce the right outcome. And so it just helped me to kind of get clarity with regards to all of what we have been doing and pushing and working for to make sure that wherever you live, and again, even though I'm primarily talking about the city of Virginia Beach, hopefully listen to this a few times, regardless of what city you're in or area that you're in. And those of you who are in areas that are struggling with not being represented, maybe this will be helpful to you. Maybe meeting with folks in your city, meeting with folks in your community, forming a coalition of advocates can help you turn things around in your respective cities. So always remember that you have enemies in your own camp. That's another thing. Always remember you have enemies in your own camp, per se, or those who look like you but will be cowards when they face the institutions that have decided that they do what they will do and will always do to control everything in the city. So always remember you're going to have some cowards, as I said earlier. Attorney General Eric Holder said this is a nation of cowards. So you're going to have enemies. Enemies are simply just cowards. Those are people who will not stand up for those things that are right. They will bend, break, crumble at the drop of a hat. If somebody offered them a few dollars, they will bend, break, or crumble. If someone says, well, I'm going to give you a position, they will bend, break, or crumble. Now, mind you, none of those people, almost none of them will ever sign a contract saying, I got a job for 20 years, okay? They may have it for 6 months. And so they've sold themselves out, sold out their community, sold out the children in the next generation for a few crumbs. Those are the weak people. Those are the weak people, and those are the cowards. And so when you're fighting for justice, when you're fighting for fairness, when you're fighting election violations and all of these other things, you want to make sure that you know that you're going to have some cowards. You know that you're going to have some weak people. You need to make sure that you're able to push back against the cowards. You're able to push back against the weakness. You're able to push back against those persons who will do anything, almost anything, against their community in order to continue to support the institutions, the status quo, the people that they feel are the most powerful, when they don't recognize that we, the people, are really the true power in any of these situations. We are really the power and the powerful. And so do not get hoodwinked. We are looking and we are fighting for a 10-member district system. One of the other things that I want to remind our community, because I know there's a lot of different types of election processes that are out there. There are wards and super wards and ranked choice voting and all of these different scenarios. Stay focused. And the reason why I want you to stay focused on the 10-1 voting district system, power of 10, the reason why I want you to stay focused, know that nothing is perfect right out of the box. But if you start tinkling with it, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to have a whole lot less than you had before. And the reason being, if I am in a position of power, I want to take as much power away from those who are beginning to gain power, because now I have another 20 years or so to push you down and to keep you down. And then when you finally get the strength to come back again, I'm already ready to try to do something different. And so if you don't take advantage of what you have now without putting all this other stuff in the pot, you're probably going to find yourself in a worse position than you were in before. The goal was to get you into a better position. So first, you want the 10-1 member district system, but recognize that the districts were not drawn perfectly. But guess what? There's always another opportunity to redraw the districts to make them better and allow people to be able to run in separate districts throughout the city. And so I don't want you to get discouraged because you saw, oh, they kind of divided this neighborhood. Well, they've been dividing neighborhoods forever. That is not anything new. So don't get all get your little, you know what, twisted.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted, okay? They have been doing this forever. And what they want you to do is they want you to focus on those little teeny tiny niches that didn't, that are not perfect, but it's better than what it was. And so I'm excited about the 10-1 district. I'm excited about getting in good trouble. I will always be willing to get in good trouble. If somebody was offended by anything that I may have said today, believe you me, I read over it a few times. And my intent is not to offend you, but my intent is to get you out of your comfort zone, is to move you away from being a coward and move you, I should say, move you away from being a sheep and become a shepherd. Because what I'm finding is we have a whole bunch of sheep, and sheep, man, they just walking around in circles or whatever, and all, and so we need you to be shepherds. We need you to talk with your community, and that community could be a community of a congregation. That community could be you have a civic league that you're working with. That community could be is you have a group of young men who are ball players in a community baseball league or a football league. Those children have parents. So when you're talking to those children, you also have the opportunity to talk to those parents. And with that, it allows you to encourage, to educate, to prepare them, and do these things in order to have a better outcome. Help them to participate. Teach them how to apply pressure. Teach them how to be a united people, okay? And so that you can produce a better outcome. We are coming up to the close of the show today.
Maybe.
And I truly hope that this has been beneficial. Again, what I try to do is not just for Virginia Beach and Virginia Beach alone. I try to share information in a manner that hopefully will provide you with information. Now, don't expect me to give it all to you, okay? I expect you to go and do your due diligence, and I expect you to go out and take a look at what city you're in and then do the work. I'm just trying to give you some nuggets so that you can use some of the things that I share with you with regards to community activism, and then use that to build your own activist group so that you can fight against issues that are not in your best interest. My goal is to help you to stop being that sheep and become that shepherd, so that you're no longer allowing people to take your tax dollars and basically say to you that we're going to make all the decisions for you, and we don't care about what you think, about what you feel, about what you care about, because we got all these decisions to make, and so I can't be bothered with that little neighborhood over there that might have a pothole. Well, I can't be bothered with that neighborhood over there that could use a traffic light, because there's been more accidents on that corner than there's been throughout the whole entire city. That's a problem. So I'm hoping that I can help you to understand, when you're looking at people who are making decisions about you, about your community, it is your tax dollars that is being used to make sure the community over here has all the beautifications and all of the rec centers and all of the parks and baseball diamonds for children, all of the things that that community needs, while your community is suffering, while your children are suffering, while your children do not have resources. These other communities are receiving the majority of the resources, and they're giving you the scraps and the leftovers. This 10-1 district system in Virginia Beach will allow each one of these districts to stop getting the leftovers and the scraps. They can begin to champion causes on behalf of their individual district. So, with that being said, we are coming up to a close on GA for Justice. I'm here every week. I am Georgia Allen, and I love doing this show. And I come on every Thursday at 12 o'clock noon, from 12 to 1 o'clock. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to tap in. You're welcome to listen later. If you're at work and you can't listen now while it's live, definitely listen later. We are on all different platforms, and Henderson is going to tell you about them more. And I'm going to close out with this quote from Dr. King. It was upon this massive base of racism that the prejudice toward the non-white was readily built and found rapid growth. This long-standing racist ideology has corrupted and diminished our democratic ideals. It is this tangled web of prejudice from which many Americans now seek to liberate themselves, and we're still seeking to liberate ourselves, without realizing how deeply it has been woven into their consciousness. So all of this stuff that has been happening to us over the years, it has been webbed, embedded, deeply woven into the consciousness of those who claim all the power and who could care less whether or not your children have a plate on their table with food to eat. Now, again, those who don't want abortion, they want you to be born. They just don't want you to live. Okay. So when you hear this foolishness, yeah, they want you to be born, but they definitely don't want you to live. Because if they wanted you to live, they would make sure poverty had ended. If they wanted you to live, they would make sure that crime has ended. We have been on this earth far too long for us not to know how to end crime. We have been on this earth far too long to not know how to end poverty and homelessness and all the various illnesses that encompasses us today. So with that being said, this is Georgia Allen, GA for Justice, and we will see you next Thursday, same time, same channel.
No doubt about it. As one of the superstars said the other night, remember the Alamo. People don't know that the Alamo was the fight, because when the slave trackers went into Mexico to get the slaves, they wouldn't give them to them, and that's what caused the fight between the United States and Mexico. But don't forget to join us next week, every Thursday from 12 until 1, with now Vice President of the Virginia Beach NAACP, Miss Georgia Allen. And want to thank each and every one of you. And don't forget to share this with other people on your social media platform. Until next week, we want to say thank you for watching and listening and sharing. Until then, bye-bye.